Board of County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public at our Tuesday afternoon meetings. There are some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate and do not take advantage of the fact that most meetings are televised. When called, please introduce yourself, including the area of the county in which you reside. I will call the person who's up and the person who's on deck, so to speak. We'll go through the boardroom. If you're on Zoom, you do not need to sign up. We'll call you one by one and ask if you wish to provide testimony. When called, please address the board, not audience or staff. Silence your cell phones. Speakers are limited to a total of 4 minutes max. You don't need to take that much time if you don't like to, but you may not donate any portion of that time to another speaker. The board reserves the right to restrict the opportunity to provide testimony for a good cause. No comments that are lewd and offensive, inflammatory, discriminatory, hateful, or defamatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind within the boardroom. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business. No remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that may become before the board on appeal. All written materials provided to the county may be considered public records, subject to public release pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 of RCW. I'm going to ask the assistant county manager to be my time monitor, since I cannot see the clock that's within the boardroom, and let people know when they've reached their point, and monitor any other regarding our COVID-19 restrictions and other boardroom decorum. I'll ask for some help on that with the folks in the boardroom. First up is Darren Goss, and Angela Mackey is on deck.
Good afternoon. I'm Darren Goss, the Chief Executive of Providence St. Peter Hospital, located on Ensign, and did want to make public comment on the future proposal for the Martin and Carpenter Way. I did want to first direct my comments to the City of Lacey and the surrounding businesses that will be impacted by this decision. Providence has long been working with the Ensign Road encampment for almost 2 years now. We know firsthand what this is like. Even businesses on Ensign Road have to drive through the encampment to get to those services, mostly medical. And as you know, Providence serves multiple counties, both Thurston, Lewis, Pacific Grays, and Mason counties. There's 2 main entrances for Providence for the emergency vehicles. One is off Martin, which I'm calling Lower Ensign, and one is off Lily Road, Upper Ensign. As you know, Lower Ensign has 50 to 60 unhoused individuals living on the street. And as you know, emergency vehicles have self-selected to reroute to Lily Road, which is the longer route for patients coming up from downtown Olympia. There's now about 15 to 20 individuals living on the street now in Upper Ensign. And as we believe this is just non-sustainable, and we do ask that the county and city continue to move forward with this plan. I did just want to say thank you to the county and the city of Olympia for their partnership on Ensign Road. We also recognize that we have an ask of the city that 2 things take place. One is when this move happens, there is not allowed growth on Upper Ensign Road. And most importantly, the second thing is that we ensure that the city acts as expeditiously as they can on the longer term solution to not impact the businesses and those that live around Martin and Carpenter. Anyway, we appreciate the partnership that we have had, and we wanted to share support for this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goss. Angela Mackey next. Terry Harper is on deck.
No comment.
My name is Terry Harper. I'm a resident, 6725 Husky Way, southeast between Kenwood Road and Carpenter Road. I'm 1,100 feet from the proposed site. Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Thank you, Commissioner Mejia and Commissioner Menzer, for us having the time to address this. I'm going to present, or I've already presented to you, a petition of the opinions of 450 concerned citizens. This petition has only begun into circulation a few days ago. So we anticipate it's going to grow much larger. On October 4th, I and several of my neighbors received a letter inviting us to a Zoom meeting scheduled for October 14th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. to discuss a plan to relocate Olympia's transient problem to our neighborhood. After clearing my schedule to attend the meeting, I arrived home early to prepare my thoughts for that meeting. To my disappointment, I received a letter that day postponing the meeting to a later date. The meeting was eventually rescheduled for 6 to 7 p.m. this coming Thursday, November 4th. To my surprise, this town hall is only taking pre-selected questions to a panel of non-elected individuals. My community does not feel like they are being heard, nor do they believe nor do they believe that this rollout satisfies the requirements set forth in Ordinance 14402, paragraph 20.35.070. To any of our knowledge, there have been no public meetings held at or near the proposed site. We in this community have many questions. Why must this failure of the city of Olympia become the responsibility of our neighborhood? If the vehicles parked on Ensign Road are detrimental to the health and safety of citizens and businesses in that area, as stated as fact in your own memorandum of understanding, why is it somehow okay in our neighborhood? The majority of the facts in your memorandum of understanding are simply hyperbole. If a citizen will move out of the way of an emergency vehicle or city bus, how do you expect them to comply with the standards dictated in County Ordinance 14402, paragraph 203580 and 203590? I and my neighbors, we know better. You should as well. Was the timing of the MOU signing and the haste of having these meetings somehow related to the 6 contested Olympia City Council seats? Does access to the methadone clinic at 6700 Martin Way East have anything to do with the selection of this site? And if so, were there any backroom negotiations with the Lacey City Councilman who has a personal financial interest in that 6700 property? Law enforcement and infrastructure in our area is already stretched beyond belief. Many of us in our community have suffered burglaries, vehicle prowls, assaults, and have had to spend our dwindling disposable net earnings and risk our personal safety on an almost weekly basis, confronting vagrants and derelict vehicles already. My home was prowled at 3 a.m. just this past Sunday morning. I have a video if you'd like to see it. Your proposal ignores the valid concerns of hundreds and perhaps thousands over the poor life choices of less than 2 dozen. Our opposition will not fade. It will only continue to grow as you move forward with your plans that will doubtless have a negative impact on our property values and our quality of life. Relocating the Ensign Road problem to the proposed location next to a metal recycler, a methadone clinic, and numerous cannabis retailers is akin to holding an AA meeting at a local tavern during happy hour. The citizens in my area are well aware that the homeless problem is a complex issue. We're asking very strongly that you focus more on your proposed permanent solution and let Olympia take responsibility for their own mess for the next 6 to 7 months. Thank you sincerely for your time and consideration.
So I had called Angela before, and Mr. Harper was on deck, so I'm not sure what happened. Is there still, I might be misreading the last name, Angela Mackey?
Chair, Angela had no comment.
Okay, very good. Then Stephen Williamson is next. John Pettit's on deck.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Williamson. I live in the Carpenter Road area. Thank you, commissioners. I'm here today to express my opposition of relocating Ensign Road encampment to Carpenter Road. My understanding is that there is about 70 vehicles on Ensign Road. If the property that you intend to purchase on Franz Anderson holds about 50 vehicles and the property on Carpenter holds about 20 vehicles, then how can we believe that you don't intend to make this not temporary? I feel that this is misleading to the public into believing this is a temporary situation until those vehicles are on site. And then If this happens, I promise we will be here again. Our neighbors already face many other challenges, and I cannot handle another added burden in my own life, let alone the rest of our neighbors. In the last week, we've had 3 separate occurrences of trespassing and attempted burglary on our road. I've heard the wording on your letters before, both the seniors and vulnerable people. I know this to be vague wording that allows any individual from Ensign Road to meet your criteria. From your own MOU that is on your agenda today, says detriment to the health and safety of the individuals living there and surrounding businesses, property owners, and visitors. Why would you move this into our neighborhood or near the businesses in our neighborhood? Ty Mesner, this is specifically for you. You made some comments this morning. They were both dismissive and just rude, and I didn't approve of them. If Mrs. Mejia was moved by today's comments, there may be reconsideration. That's telling me that you've made your decision. Carolina Mejia, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I understand what Providence's and surrounding businesses are facing. I've lived this, and I'm done. I'm from Ballard in Seattle. I'm almost done anyway. I've had to clean up human feces. I've had to clean up needles. I've had to live with this. I don't want to do this again. I'm not against the homeless. This is not a fix. This is solely a way to stop a lawsuit for the county from Providence Hospital. This should be addressed in a manner that helps these individuals better their lives. As we, the taxpayers, are footing this bill, why are we not being involved in this decision-making? And why are we just going to move this situation from one spot to another? We should be planning this better. We should be making this a helping situation for them. And this is not what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. We got John Pettit, Terry Ballard on deck.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As you're aware, I have a breathing issue and health issue. I need to not wear the mask, so forgive me for that. My name is John Pettit. I live out in East Olympia. I earlier today sent you all a nice little letter so you can kind of follow along with some of my discussion. You know, and it's the safe parking site. There was a movie that says, if you build it, they will come. Well, the fact of the matter is that nothing about this proposal of moving 15 to 20 of the units that are on Enzyme Road is going to cure the ability for people to drive from Martin Way up to the north end of Enzyme Road. Nothing. It only takes one car to cause blockage. And so it's okay for you guys in your thinking, I guess, it has to be your thinking, that 50 cars that remain or 60 cars that remain, that's okay. That won't be a problem. There's no solution in moving 15 to 20 cars. It's all got to be done. I consider this to be a fine example of representative government. That's what you guys are, except I don't get to see Ty. He's too good to be out here with the rest of us. And it becomes tainted with power that they no longer need to listen to the public. You know, heads swell with belief that the elected, you know, you're better than the rest of the community. In fact, you can just decide for us what we need to have happen. It's not important that we get represented. You'll decide. Well, you know, apparently you've decided you no longer need public hearings to hear from the people, and these people came because they're frustrated. Nobody's listening to them. You're listening to staff. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for continuing to take a stand. I'm just trying to convince Ms. Mejia and Mr. Menzer to change course until we get some type of better plan. Now, for the MOU you've written, you just need to get over yourselves to decide that this is the perfect formula because, you know, you got to become humble again. You need to understand you work for the people, not the other way around. So Here's a couple more little spots I want to bring. Are you going to follow the law? Did you know that creating a homeless encampment is a permitted process? Or do you not have to do permitting process because you're above the law? How about even, and I had them drop this off, the gopher inspection sheet. This is a federal part. Okay, do you realize you can't even get a gopher inspection? And if you saw the sheet, the property that's in question for this site has gopher land on it. Per your own ordinance here and statement, if you apply for permit, the county checks the map to see if a project property has gopher soils. If it does, the entire parcel is inspected for it. That can't start until June. So your project right now would be illegal to move it forward before clearing the July at least. Come up with a better solution, listen to the people. You've had hundreds of them that are pleading not to have you. I've decided that if you go forward, I will personally support some homeless people to park directly in front of whatever commissioners choose to vote in front of your own homes so you can feel the impact of having homeless people in your neighborhood, just like what you want to do to force upon the people out there. Thank you.
Mr. Ballard, followed by Mr. William Powell on deck.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Terry Ballard, and I'm a 35-year veteran and retired on active duty in Thurston County in 2012. I, too, live in unincorporated Thurston County. And if I get to the veteran part, that would be great, but all of you have been sent the mail and my disgust of your using the Veterans Fund for using the Veterans Fund for that atrium building, using the Veterans Fund over here, using my unincorporated road fund, and using the mental health fund for that atrium building. But I'm not here to discuss that. I am disgusted with you using my Tanglewild as a place to put your homeless. And my disgust is strictly health-wise. You are the Board of Health. So we're going to continue to have these non-homeless people that live in RVs. They don't live beside the road over there on Ensign. They live in RVs. All the RVs there are not even registered. I found a 2016 Oregon plate on an RV. What is going on here? Okay. Also, they're not registered, so therefore they don't probably have insurance to do that. Okay. Also, for a health-wise, where are they going to dump their waste? Oh, I'm sorry. They're going to dump it in stormwater, okay? And that stormwater is going to go down to Woodland Creek, and that Woodland Creek is going to be blamed again for stormwater, okay, from the septic tanks going in stormwater, which every property owner in Tanglewild pays a fee for $40 a year. Okay, are we going to be blamed for that, like the lot plant that sits next to Woodland Creek? Okay, we had constraints. We had there is no contamination of Thurston County Tanglewild. No contamination whatsoever, but you continue to do a $40 fee. Now you're moving in homeless to dump it in our stormwater. That's ridiculous. Okay, and when a facility such as Lot can't handle all the rainwater like they do in the illicit combined system of stormwater and sewer, where do they dump it? Well, the one down in Olympia dumps it in Bud Inlet. And the other one over there on Martin Way, they just dump it on the ground. Okay? Let's just blame us for your mishap. Okay? Where are they going? Are you going to license these people? Are you going to have them licensed? I have to be licensed. Okay? They probably don't even have a driver's license. But by VA standards, they are not homeless. You either have to live in a car or live out underneath the stars. To live in a, what's the difference between I'm owning an RV or a travel trailer and park it? Am I homeless? And it's like, just like your pocket gophers, okay? Are we gonna give them all, little notices to move out? You know, you got this pocket gopher issue over here, but we need all those pocket gophers to move over here so we can be safe over here. You know, I'm getting tired of you guys violating the law. I have one, that practice law. I have one, that process law. And I have one, that upholded law. And you cannot read the regulation for yourself and interpret it? That's pretty sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't be able to talk about the Veterans Assistance Fund that you've been abusing, but I'll do that at another avenue. And just remember, out of 50 emails, I had 3 kickbacks, and all those veteran emails that you had went out to the state organizations of the DAV, the VFW, the AMVETS, and all of the nationally recognized service organizations within the state, not only all the service organizations within your county. Thank you.
We have William Powell up next, Michelle Hager on deck.
Mr. Powell said he didn't wish to testify, sir.
Okay, very good. Then we'll go to Michelle Hager with Andrea Patton on deck.
Hi, my name is Michelle Hager, and I co-own Debbie's Dance, Etc., which is located at 6715 Martin Way, right across the street from the proposed encampment. And I'm incredibly concerned. I'm incredibly concerned for our students, and I'm incredibly concerned for our teachers. There is already an increased homeless issue in our county, and I know it's growing, and we already see it in our neighborhood, in our area. My concern is, earlier this year, we had a gentleman on our front steps who was. It was clear to me, without doing any tests, that he was incredibly intoxicated and probably high. It was during business hours. So our hours, we're open, you know, sometimes we have classes during the day, but oftentimes it's after school and it's into the evening and it's dark. And this time of year, it's dark pretty close to when we're starting classes. And this gentleman would not leave. And I had students afraid to come into the studio. I had students afraid to leave the dance studio. I called for police assistance, and I was told someone would be on their way. I continued to teach classes, to come out in between class, find the gentleman still there, parents watching, saying, no one has come by. So I call again. Yep, police are on their way. You'll have assistance soon. Teach another class, come out, gentleman is still there. Kids are still afraid to leave. It was just after 8 o'clock at night, finally, one of my parents and one of my teachers, and I feel incredibly concerned for their safety, finally got the gentleman to leave. So I'm concerned that this will just increase and that my students will be at risk. I'm concerned that they'll be exposed to things they shouldn't see. I'm concerned they don't know what a hypodermic needle is, and we'll see that. I'm concerned. And I'm concerned. I don't know if there's going to be increased patrol, if there's going to be increased responses. I don't know if people are going to be if there's going to be reprimand for not following the laws and the rules, and I'm concerned that that's just not going to happen. And as a business owner that's already, all the businesses have been hit so hard, especially a business of physical activity. We've already been hit incredibly hard with COVID, and besides being concerned for my business and losing customers, I am concerned for those customers and teachers' safety. So I have a bunch of questions that I will go ahead and submit for Thursday's meeting. But I just want you to think about the families in the area, and I want you to think about the kids. I want you to think about these teachers, and just think hard. So thank you.
Thank you. I've got Andrea Patton, and then on deck would be Carmen Hubert.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Patton, and I am here to also voice my opposition to the proposed relocating of the homeless encampment near St. Peter's Hospital to 720 Carpenter Road. I'm the other owner of Debbie's Dance, along with Michelle Hager, who just spoke a moment ago. Our dance studio is directly across the street from the proposed location. There's actually 2 other dance studios within a mile of us. So hundreds of young kids every day are coming in and out of those businesses, along with their parents, to usually accompany, and young teachers. Dance are the majority of our staff is anyway between the ages of 21 and about 30. So as a dance studio owner and a teacher myself, my goal always is to provide a safe and healthy environment for my students. Sorry. That's been our mantra since COVID began, is what can we do to provide a safe and healthy place for kids to be able to come? And I'm not feeling like it's going to be a safe and healthy place if the encampment moves as it's proposed to where it's supposed to be. As Michelle said, we've already had individuals experiencing homelessness hang out outside our doors. She told you that story. My daughter, who's 21, teaches for us, grew up dancing at the dance studio. It's her home away from home. She actually had her car attacked on Martin Way the summer before last by a shopping cart and a homeless individual. I'm so sorry. And as Michelle said too, area police have been really slow in responding to calls such as these. And in addition to the gentleman who was in front of our building, I mean, we see it through our parking lot all day long. We do have a marijuana store just up the street. So we see lots of signs of intoxication and just being under the influence of other substances. And our staff is not equipped to manage. We're just not equipped, and we don't feel supported by law enforcement. So I recognize we need a solution, but we need one that does not move the homeless encampment closer to family neighborhoods and businesses that cater specifically to children. We need to protect the safety and security of our families and children and our small businesses. I thank you.
Thank you. I've got Carmen Hubert and Eric Casino on deck.
Good afternoon. My name is Carmen Hubert. I own the Viking Lounge in Lacey, located at 6318 Martin Way. I'm here today, of course, to oppose the moving of the encampment for several reasons. First of all, because we have already, as Michelle pointed out, we have already struggled to endure through the last couple of years. And what you are asking now is that we take on the additional responsibility of having to monitor our parking lots day and night, of having to ensure that once this encampment grows, because we've seen how well you all manage those sorts of things. So once the encampment grows beyond the borders, and once there are streets that are lined with these RVs in our little neighborhood now too, and they're handily located right behind a bar, a cannabis shop, a car dealership, and set our metals. So you can imagine that there's just little playground there for people who might not just want to be safe in their gate. I don't think that that's really going to happen. I don't think that it's really going to be managed. And I don't think that there is an adequate amount of security that would be offered. I don't think that you all plan on having 24-hour security for the surrounding parking lots that are, I would imagine not, no. And I don't think that there's a plan in place to compensate the businesses that have to have additional security. And I also am really concerned with the additional economic injury that will be on our shoulders now, because people will not want to come because there will be RVs lining the street, and they will know that it is not safe. And they will know that people are going to have visitors as listed in your, their visitors are going to come and go. And you're right across the street from Tanglewild. And there are some areas of Tanglewild that are just lovely. And then there are others that sling drugs like it's their hobby. So they'll be able to get those too. And then the methadone clinic. I just think that the placement is akin to just creating a second problem. It is in no way fixing the first one that you have before you. And it is in no way going to alleviate any of the issues that the county is facing as far as homelessness is concerned. And I don't have the answer to that, but I do know that moving it to greatly affect businesses that have already struggled in the past couple of years is not the fair, equitable, or intelligent solution given the types of businesses that are around it. And then also, of course, all the kids at the dance studios and the families who live across the street in Tanglewild. It just, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that there's any evidence in Olympia, downtown Ole by the transit center, and there's no evidence by the hospital that would lead me to believe that you have any ability to control this mess. Once you relocate it, it will simply grow there. And this presence that we already struggle with, and this presence, the homelessness and the junkies. The person who opens my bar is 107 pounds. She's an itty bitty lady, and she already has to kick people out from in front of the doorway when she wants to unlock, when she wants to go in and just do her job. She just wants to get there safely and go to work. And our police are already stretched so thin that they don't have the time or the manpower to patrol and to be there to make sure that people are able to get into their businesses safely and to make sure that people are able to patronize those businesses safely. So I would respectfully ask that you come up with a different solution, because I feel like the county has tried this before and the public has spoken. I feel like it's been very sneaky the way that this one has been pulled together. And I don't think that people have been allowed the opportunity to really speak about this. So I hope that you will do something different.
Eric Casino's up. On deck is Jen McEnany.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Eric Casino, and I live on the northwest shore of Long Lake, which just happens to be right off Carpenter Road. I came today mainly to highlight some bad decisions that the county has made, and it was a good opportunity for me to come because it sounds like there's a lot more bad decisions that are about to be made. My particular complaint today, again, is about the development activities that took place on the county fairgrounds, where you took the most disgusting, grossest, automotive fluid-laden asphalt material and spread it out over a field for it to all wash down into our lakes. And you did this all without permits, without stormwater review, and without regard to the environmental impacts that it would have. What really concerns me is, once this was brought to your attention that you made a bad decision, how you're not doing anything about it. You're not going through and doing anything. We had to get the city after you to issue a notice of violation, but on the county side, you're still not doing anything. You didn't issue yourselves a new notice of violation. You haven't even admitted that what you done was wrong. Interestingly enough, even though I had been complaining about this for 7 weeks by letters and by coming in here, since the last time I was here, I was finally able to talk to the code enforcement officer for Thurston County. And when I talked to him last week, he told me he had never even heard of this issue. He had no idea that you guys did development on the fairgrounds. He had no idea that you didn't do stormwater review. You didn't get any permits. You didn't do any of that. And so when I hear from other people at the county about accountability, consistency, and transparency, and you hadn't even brought your own enforcement guy into this, tells me you're not doing anything. And you don't even really care to do anything except maybe wash it under the rug. I hope that you will finally take some time to look into this issue, see how it's impacting the lakes, see how it is near impossible for you to have an enforcement mechanism that says you need to get permits when you don't do it yourself. The hypocrisy is stinking. Thank you very much.
Jen McEnany. On deck is Gary Robinette.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jen McEnany. I'm a county employee and the support staff president of the Thurston County Deputy Sheriff Association. I come before you to talk briefly about the classification and compensation review that is coming for a vote today. First, I want to thank you for taking a good deal of time to discuss and review this request. I also want to thank you for making the preliminary budget decision to approve the 3 classifications. Those 7 staff members are really appreciative of that. Unfortunately, the 2/3 of the rest of us are left without an increase. And going into this process, we were all knew and were very aware that it wouldn't necessarily shake out to the benefit of every person in the association. And the consensus among the group was that as long as the process was outlined in the MOU and in the compensation methodology was provided by HR was followed, that we would deal with the outcome and move on. We don't feel like that has happened, and that's our main complaint. I understand that there's concern about this group being treated differently or unfairly, or not unfairly, but better than others. During this process, we repeatedly asked to be able to join the market study that was for all the countywide positions, and we were repeatedly told that we were not allowed to be part of that study because we were civil service. HR has a document that they recently updated called the compensation methodology, and it spells out how a market study is to be done. In section 2F, it states that in every effort will be made to benchmark a classification to the labor market. However, on occasion, HR is unable to benchmark a classification because of the need for an office or department to have a unique classification. If HR is unable to obtain a solid market data, then internal comparisons will be used to make a salary recommendation. Our question is, why are those internal comparables not being used for the Bureau staff assistant and the legal assistant? The compensation methodology is in place so that HR will treat each classification fairly. And how is a group supposed to be treated fairly if no one is going to hold HR accountable to follow their own rules that they've set forth? During preliminary budget decisions, you approved funding for an HR to have an executive assistant. HR's executive assistant will support a director and a department with 19 full-time employees. A bureau staff assistant provides confidential support to a bureau chief that has over 120 employees. And the bureau staff assistants aren't asking to be paid at an executive assistant level. They just want to be paid as the same as their counterpart. By benchmarking the legal assistant to the legal assistant supervisor, you would also provide a 10% salary adjustment and would bring the legal assistants to just slightly behind the comparable of a paralegal 1. Currently, I could go to work for Amazon, UPS, or FedEx in this county and make more than what we pay our legal assistants. These legal assistants has high-level responsibilities. They make daily decisions that greatly affect our liability. They decide which documents to disclose to the public. They enter warrants. They're the ones that are approving and denying concealed pistol licenses. I know it's budget season and decisions like these are difficult, but I do believe that the wage increase is important if we want to retain the talented staff that we have. Thank you again for taking this time to hear my position.
Thank you. We've got Gary Robinette and Newt Lehman on deck.
I have no comment.
Afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Knut Lehman. I'm a deputy with Thurston County Sheriff's Office, and I'm also the president of the Deputy Sheriff's Association. Commissioners, this position of the Deputy Sheriff's Association that we cannot support your plan for implementation of the homeless plan for the Carpenter Martin Way location. Deputies understand that the board may be in a complex position as the county in which these cities reside to try and manage this issue. I understand that some federal, state, and local grants have been received, and personally suspect that they may only come to the county level, which you then have to distribute to the cities or other organizations. However, nowhere does it say the county has to absorb the issue these cities are facing. And providing some monetary support and leaning on contacts and relationships to assist these cities may be welcomed. There is no reason that we should have to subject ourselves to the same issues the cities are facing because of their inability or frankly negligence to handle the issue themselves. The city of Olympia has been notorious in their mismanagement of this issue, which is clearly evident by a walk through downtown or around Capitol Lake, driving down Wheeler or the adjacent section of Interstate 5 northbound, or the exit and off ramps of Interstate 5 and Pacific. The city has handicapped their police department and have absolutely refused to enforce their own municipal codes and RCWs about transient camps, and specifically the Ensign Road issue that's at discussion now. The association absolutely supports our fire department, medic, and beloved staff at St. Peter's. The individuals that have chosen to live on Ensign Road do so without regard to anyone else but themselves. The fact that they are aware that they are effectively blocking a main thoroughfare to a hospital, and refuse to leave the area voluntarily speaks volumes of their true intentions. Commissioner Minster said in a meeting last week that we owe it to our constituents to provide expedient access to medical facilities and to reduce response time to providing them care. I think everybody would agree with that. Why doesn't the City Council of Olympia? They have had the last 2 years almost to resolve this issue and have sat on their hands. They mismanaged this issue immensely, and now we're supposed to take their word for it that they will enforce the parking issue once everyone leaves. We agree that they need to remove the vehicles on Ensign. However, as our commissioners, why are you willing to sacrifice county resources for an issue that doesn't directly involve us county citizens? The City of Olympia is pushing their mismanaged and self-created problem onto citizens and constituents of Thurston County that you commissioners represent. The people who voted for you to lead this county, who are going to be the ones who directly feel this. The businesses who depend on your policies and leadership to be successful, and frankly, as us, county employees who depend on them to pay our salaries outside of property taxes and sales tax depend on them. They trusted that Thurston County was a safe and reputable place to establish their business and residences. Moving these vehicles and their owners to this location will greatly impact the services deputies can provide to our true citizens and businesses. We are already the lowest staffed sheriff office in the state, the capital county of Washington State, and we are the lowest. Quite frankly, commissioners, you should be embarrassed by that. There is no denying that our workload and fire and / medical personnel workload of Lacey Fire Department will be impacted by this location, thus prolonging and lengthening our response times to other issues that we need to take care of. From February 1 of 2020 to this morning, November 2nd, 2021, there have been 1,274 calls from medical and law enforcement service for locations between the 3200 block of Ensign Road and the 3526 block of Ensign Road, not including the medical and retirement homes in this area. These are strictly calls that required some kind of a response from OPD or OLEFD and used up resources. I know you have said that there will only be roughly 13 to 18 vehicles brought into the site. However, we all know that the homeless population acts as more of a collectivist society rather than individualistic. They are congregate and lean on one another for support, whether that be for the true basics of life and necessities or possible illegal property crimes and narcotic activity. Managing the site according to our own local ordinance rules has been diminished due to your hip pocket firing of adjusting this county's own ordinances to fit your agenda to look good to city governments who have no say in your ability to be voted back into office at the end of your terms. And when that camp reaches its maximum amount of beneficiaries, who's to say that the remaining vehicles of the roughly 50 that are currently housed on Ensign Road won't end up parked along both sides of Carpenter Road Northeast? This road is not a well-developed road in this area. It's a nightmare already to provide a priority response to this area due to its skinny lanes of travel and small and unimproved dirt shoulders that don't even allow for commuting vehicles to yield the right-of-way properly to emergency vehicles. Now you want to congest that area with more increased foot traffic, vehicle traffic, and recreational camping. There's a large amount of commercial vehicle traffic that drives through this route as well for miles sand and gravel. This is a choke point and a true thoroughfare for people to get from Lacey into Hawks Prairie and other unincorporated areas of the county without going onto the freeway, Marvin Road, or Slater-Kinney. Further north of the site, there's a Washington State Farm Bureau in the 900 block of Carpenter Road Northeast. That is a sizable parking lot and a widened shoulder on the southbound lane. I can guarantee, based on my own experience of being a law enforcement officer in this county for the past 6 years and firsthand seeing the impacts of homelessness encampments develop, you will have vehicles parked along the street in a jurisdiction that we as TCSO cannot enforce due to jurisdictional lines. You are now increasing the workload of the City of Lacey police officers and possibly frustrating staff of another business. I have several more pages to read through, but obviously I'm going to respect the timeline that's set forth by the commissioners. But I'll close out with this and I'll submit it to the so-called hearing that we're going to have on the 4th. Commissioner Minster said this morning is not a new site and has already been vetted, but wasn't moved forward with because of finances in the past and didn't appear to be a good use of county taxpayer dollars. But now, because we have increased revenue from property tax, sales tax, and a gigantic growth in the general fund from various sources, all of a sudden, when a loud enough roar from our major regional hospital is finally being heard in lieu of possible litigation, it's now become a good use of county tax dollars to use this site. That's confusing and misleading. We and I appreciate, I'm gonna read this and then I'll be done. We and I appreciate Commissioner Edwards' stance on this, and at times his comments can be harsh when sharing his opinions. However, I don't think he's wrong in the content. And it's very frustrating to watch your meetings, and with the technology we have been forced to use to watch these meetings due to the pandemic, it's been interesting because you can really see people's facial reactions on Zoom. And when things are said, it's really frustrating to watch Commissioner Minster roll his eyes at the words that this gentleman is saying, because at the end of the day, this gentleman is using his words to voice the concerns of citizens in this county that don't have the ability to be here. And when you have one commissioner completely disrespecting another without him even realizing it, is uncalled for. In closing, the Deputy Sheriff Association does not support this plan, but I can tell you what we will do in response to it. My association will go out and serve the community as we always do.
Sir, I need you to wrap up your comments.
With the utmost professionalism and respect for the laws of our state and the people of our community, whether they are transients or not. It's what this office does, has done, and will always do. Regardless of the lack of support for this department that we've seen from county leadership in the past, we continue to rise above our circumstances and provide near perfect service that calls for our help or response, even when we are the lowest staff sheriff's office in the state, the lowest paid in our comparables to sheriff's office that we compare ourselves to. We still find a way to make this county an attractive, safe, and equitable place to raise a family or run a business. And we will always find a way to do so because being a true public servant is what is ingrained in our employees and the driving force behind why we come to work every day. In turn, you can expect a deputy in my association to hold everyone accountable within the spirit and letter of the law in regards to this action and be impartial in their decision-making surrounding the mismanagement of Olympia's lack of response that has now fallen in our laps. Thank you.
I've got Amy Washington, followed by Alex Fetzberger.
Could you state those names again, sir?
Yes, Amy Washington, followed by Alex Fetzberger.
We do, and staff is down there, so if
Okay, they're retreating, folks.
Hello, I'm Amy Washington. I'm the sales manager at Titus Will at 6504 Martin Way East. I apologize that the owner couldn't be here. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I just ran up the stairs. So our location literally borders the homeless camp. The only thing separating us is a chain link fence, a fence that continuously gets cut. And people break in, I'm really out of breath. People break into our lot all of the time. We just had catalytic converters stolen 2 weeks ago. We've had multiple cars busted into, belongings stolen. We have homeless people break into our cars and sleep in them. As winter comes, obviously it gets dark early. There's multiple nights where I'm the only person there. I'm fearful for my safety, being in a dark lot with nothing but a fence separating us, and we don't even have a fence all the way through because there's an alleyway. So it's literally a couple of steps from where I park my car.
I don't see how this is gonna fix anything. Like, as it was said before, Sutter Metals is right there. We have a car dealership full of catalytic converters. Like, it's going to be an ongoing issue. We already have problems with trash and heroin needles all over our lot. We've found drugs in our cars because we unlock our cars during the day so that we don't have to run back and get keys. We lock them at night. We found heroin needles and crack pipes in cars all within just the last 2 months. And now you're gonna put a homeless camp back there? Like, I don't even know what to say. I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't planning on coming today. I just know that I'm going to be terrified to go to work. I know that they're going to be coming in and asking to use our restroom and among other things. There's nothing separating us except for a little bit of fence. That's it. Like, not even a street, just a little alley and some fence. I don't know what else to say, but all the other businesses, they're like with Debbie's Dance and the kids, I'm more worried for that than I am myself. And I'm pretty worried for my own safety. But then you throw kids into that mix, and I don't see how this is gonna help anybody. So, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. I've got Alex Fetzberger, followed by Brett Trowbridge.
Mr. Alex is not going to testify, I take it. Is that right? Okay.
Mr. Trowbridge then, and then I have a series of other names who all checked no. So this might be the last one I have on sign up for the in-person, and we'll go to Zoom. But we'll do one last check of the boardroom after Mr. Trowbridge.
My name's Brett Trowbridge. I live on Patterson Lake, the south end. I understand a bunch of people have been coming to your commissioner meetings saying that they want to start a project on Patterson Lake again. We've defeated it 3 times already. Here's what the score was last time. I passed it out to you guys. Commissioner Messner, the score, the vote last time was 36,000 votes to 13,000 votes. 3-1, basically. 105 property owners voted no and 60 voted yes. This is from the county. This isn't from me. So now they're saying that they need 60 properties to start this. Well, they had 60 last time, and they went down 3-1. And this, how many times do we have to get rid of this? North Patterson Lake is kind of trying to force this on us. Long Lake's trying to force this on us. Long Lake has successful projects that people like. North Patterson's project apparently failed because they don't have a project now. South Patterson's has had 2 votes, which have failed overwhelmingly after it was forced on us with no vote by the county back in 1981. I passed out a 1991 newspaper article, which has a picture of former Commissioner Overquell saying that she is concerned about whether there's much real support for this tax. She's wondering whether this poison that they want to dump into the lake, sonar, is safe because they won't say what the proprietary ingredients are. Notice this was for a $1.3 million project. Now, the project that they're talking about on Patterson Lake, we have about 160 owners. Let's say they could actually get $1,000 from each of us. That'd be $160,000, right? Compare that to the 1.3 million that they were trying to get 30 years ago. It's a very small amount of money. It's less money than the median house is worth in the county now. Why do you want to spend all this time going into the weeds and discussing how long you can't swim and whether or not pets can drink the water, exactly where the borders are? You know, last time what we had was people bringing in water that they said they dipped out of their lake. It was crystal clear. That was me. And people bringing in scum water and saying they dipped it out of the lake. Is that useful? Do you want to do that for a year and a half? You know, this thing goes, this is a very long process. So I'm arguing that we should actually determine whether or not there's really any support for it. Last time it went down 3-1. Now, I've got a lot of objections to the idea. And I know I don't have enough time to really talk about them all. But let's just say environmental concerns. One would be we're in the McAllister Springs district. So the county's policy already is that water from my lake goes down into the aquifer and runs right into McAllister Springs. This article that I passed out illustrates that Commissioner Oberquell had the county do a study, and on Long Lake, 8% of the water goes, according to the county, goes into the aquifer that leads to McAllister Springs. 8% of the water from Long Lake. What do you think the percentage of the water from Patterson Lake would be going into the springs, since we're in the geosensitive district and they aren't? I mean, if the county believes in the geosensitive district, how could they possibly approve dumping 55-gallon dunks of poison into it? It's obviously not environmental. Wells have been damaged right along the edge of the lake on Rumac and Fair Oaks Drive. I got an article from the county that says that. They've been polluted by 3 different pesticides. So these guys want to dump a whole bunch of pesticide in our lake. There's a million laws against this. You know, just like the other people were saying, you guys aren't following your own laws. I would argue that Thurston County Code 2430-200, which covers intensive projects in wetlands, would certainly apply. It's an intensive project in a wetlands, isn't it, to kill all the lily pads? That's what they want to do. They want to kill every single plant in the lake. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? I mean, if you have green plants in a lake, they're good. They're producing, they have chlorophyll, they're producing oxygen, they're eating up CO2. What about if you have dead plants in a lake, which is what you're going to have after you poison them all? They're not taking them out like with the old harvesting. They're leaving them in the bottom of the lake to rot. And of course, they will suck up O2 and give out CO2. So what they're trying to say is they want to kill the lake to save it. I mean, who is it that's killing the lake? Is it me with my lily pads, or is it these people with this project? So I noticed that the sheriff's officer got to speak for 9 minutes. Let me just say one more thing and I'll sit down. Because I have a proposal to solve this. You know, what are these people offering? They don't like homeless people. I don't like killing lily pads. I have a proposal. Instead of having this long process for 3 years where we all yell at each other, very divisive, I still have neighbors I don't speak to from 40 years ago. Why don't we just tell the lady who wants to start this project to draw up a map, to do a survey basically, and to draw up a map that includes the people who are willing to pay for the project and excludes the people who aren't. Because the unfairness of this whole lake management project is that they're trying to find somebody to pay who doesn't want to. Me. So why don't they just do that? Why don't they do a survey? I've got a map here I was going to show everybody, but there's no time. You could put red dots for the people who are for killing weeds and are willing to pay for it. And of course, blue dots for people who aren't in favor of killing weeds and don't want to pay for it. And then you could just draw a line where there's a lot of red dots and no blue dots. That's where you do the project. And the places where there's more blue dots than red dots, you don't do it. And that would be totally fair. I mean, no one would feel screwed. So what you need to tell this lady is that she needs to have about 80% people being for it before it could possibly pass. 60 is way too few. Okay, I'll sit down.
Okay, Assistant County Manager, are you mic'd? Because I can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Thank you. I can't see the clock, nor can I hear your attempts to manage, so I can't really. We ask people to respect the 4-minute time limit, and the Assistant County Manager will give you that. Just basically, if you hear the bell, finish your thought, your sentence or the tail end of your paragraph, and then we need you to. We have a lot more people left. I've got Jeff Durkin, Mike Longo, Matt Colbert, and Michelle Tippett, but they all checked no for testifying. Is that still the case?
So we have, ma'am, would you like to step back? Yes. Thank you.
I'm not really prepared for this, but I'm Michelle Tippett. I am the owner of High Impact Dance Studio, just up the street. We're one of the 3 dance studios within the area. And I just want to point out that we are a small business, but we are not a small business. Between the 3 of us, between Debbie's Dance and Inspired to Move and myself, I am pretty sure that we service over 1,000 children in our community every week. And that's a lot. We're bigger than most elementary schools in the area. And, I don't think you realize that. And that's not something, putting a homeless encampment across the street from one of these elementary schools would probably never happen in a million years. And so I just want to point out that there are many kids' businesses in that stretch. There are multiple daycares. I know there's a martial arts academy, and there's the 3 studios of us. And we are servicing youth in our community, many, many of them. We've been, we're not making money right now with COVID. We've all got smaller classes. Our wages are increased. Everything is much more expensive. And, I don't know about you guys, but we're open because we're open before our kids. We've been losing money for 18 months now. We've gotten a few grants along the way, but we're struggling. But we are open for our children because they need us. And there's been times when the schools have been closed. I know there was definitely times when we were the only like social outlet that children had. They were in their rooms on Zoom. And the only time they got interaction was with, when they got the one time a week that they come to our classes, because we were able to do that in a conducive environment that the schools weren't able to provide at that time. So we are hanging on by a thread. We are very important to the kids in our community. There's 1,000 kids, let alone their siblings and their parents, that are coming and going every week really close to this location. And it is going to affect us if you put that in. It's going to decrease our numbers, and our industry and our schools are right on the edge. So I hope you'll really consider that, and you'll consider the youth in our communities and what they need, and that we can provide that right now, but we're not going to be able to go on for very much longer. And there's definitely, sure we could get you specific numbers, but I'm sure we're over 1,000 children coming and going every week. Thank you.
And Assistant County Manager, can you poll the boardroom if there's anyone else left?
So is there anyone else here in 280 that would like to testify that has not had the opportunity yet? And if there's anyone else in room 152 downstairs, I would invite them to come upstairs to testify if they wish to do so.
While we're waiting for that, I'm just going to announce that we had 2 public hearings set for 3 p.m. on public works issues. If you're looking for those, we haven't even gotten to the substance of the 2 p.m. board meeting yet, so it'll be quite some time before we begin those public hearings on those 2 public works issues.
So Commissioner, no one has stepped forward in 280, and I don't see anyone yet at the door. Would you like me to go down the list of people on Zoom?
Let's do that. Yep, let's get going.
Okay, great. The first name I have is Ann Freeman Manzares. Would you like to testify?
Yes, please. Thank you. So members of the County Commission, my name is Ann Freeman Manzanares. I'm the General Manager, CEO of Intercity Transit, which is the public transportation provider in Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, Yelm, and the urban growth boundary of Thurston County. I wanted to thank you for being a partner in the Regional Housing Council and attempting to address a really pressing and difficult issue in our community. Camping along Ensign Road has impacted our ability to safely navigate Ensign Road. These operational safety concerns have prompted us to remove service from Ensign Road. Our focus is on supporting public transit service for our entire community, and having to shift service due to operational concerns as opposed to serving the transportation needs of our community is not an effective way for us to provide transit service. So again, thank you. While this doesn't alleviate all of our safety concerns and our desire to maintain access to transit service, we appreciate your efforts to partner and attempt to address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next name I have is Becky Samuelson. Would you like to testify?
Yes, I will be very brief. So thank you for your time. My name is Becky Samuelson. I work with the Rants Group. We are the property management firm and part owner of the Ensign Medical Center, which is directly across the street from Providence's emergency entrance. And we take the responsibility of providing our tenants a safe and secure environment to come to work every day and to provide the very, very valuable services that they're providing to our community through the various medical fields that are represented in the building. And we are having a really, really incredibly difficult time doing that these days. We have constant communications and conversations with our tenants and their employees about their safety and how they're feeling very, very unsafe coming to work, unsafe walking from their car into the building, particularly with the time change that's coming up here next weekend. Just additional darkness adds to their anxiety about that. And again, we take that responsibility very seriously. And the very unfortunate thing is that we don't have any easy answers for them. Of course, we can provide additional lighting and do the operational types of things to provide them with as much safety as we can, but our options are really quite limited. To speak with regards to the transit topic that was just referenced, that's also a big concern for the building as well. So many people, particularly elderly people, rely on the transit system. We do have a bus stop that's immediately in front of the building, which is of course very convenient for those folks to be able to use the medical services that are provided. And they just can't do that right now, which is incredibly unfortunate. I also personally fear for the safety of the individuals who are living on Ensign Road. I drive that road regularly coming to and from the building. And it's frightful how many times I encounter an individual who is not where they're supposed to be, who is physically in the drive lane of traffic. And it's just a matter of time before something tragic happens to one of those individuals. And that would be so tragic as well for the driver of that vehicle. And again, there are a lot of elderly folks who commute Ensign Road because of all the medical services that are provided there. So anyway, I think that's all I have to say. It's just unfortunate on so many levels. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next name I have is Carolyn Cox. Remember?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Cox. Although I serve on the Lacey City Council, I want to make clear that the views I'll share today are my own. I am not speaking for our council. As has been made painfully aware, the situation on Ensign Road has become intolerable as more and more RVs park there and block entrances to medical facilities, not just the emergency room, but to other medical businesses there as well. Ambulances are forced to avoid Ensign Road to get to the emergency room, wasting precious minutes when lives are at stake. And as chair of the Intercity Transit Authority, I can tell you that it has been a struggle for the buses to pass through, so much so that we revised the route to avoid that stretch of Ensign Road. I empathize with many of the speakers here today. This is uncomfortable for everybody, but this is not unique to Thurston County. We're part of a national crisis that's going on. The West Coast is being hit harder than other parts of the country. So I commend the county staff and commissioners for the responsible plan that you're putting forward to improve access to the hospital and to nearby medical facilities. The plan, as I understand it, is to move no more than 20 of the RVs from Ensign Road to the county-owned site at Carpenter Road near Martin Way. The individuals being chosen for the move are the most vulnerable of the RV campers, and I want to emphasize this, the most likely to be good neighbors in the area. The county is establishing safeguards that include site supervision as well as security for that site, and the RVs won't be there permanently. This is a temporary measure, 6 to 8 months, while the county and the city of Olympia complete purchase and preparation of a permanent site. The Carpenter Road site is just outside Lacey city limits. No doubt there will be some impacts, but I am comfortable with the responsible approach and safeguards proposed today. I would remind commissioners and those listening that 2 years ago, this very site was vetted as a mitigation site to take pressure off the city of Olympia. The only reason that didn't happen was the high cost of preparing the site to accommodate tent camping. Parking RVs there will not cost that much money, and therefore I think this is a much more reasonable use of that and a much more fiscally responsible use of our dollars here. I get it that no one relishes the idea of having a homeless encampment, whether it's tents or RVs, near their business or home. But this is a temporary measure and will all benefit from improved access to St. Peter's Hospital. It will be safer for the RV campers at both sites as well. Thank you for the thoughtful approach to making this work. And to those who oppose this plan, I would borrow a phrase from the Olympian's recent editorial about the plan. Do you have a better idea? If you do, I would love to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Sheryl Selby.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm starting my timer, so I will be respectful of the 4 minutes. I'm Sheryl Selby, Mayor of Olympia, and I'm here today to speak about the power of partnerships. Our nation is facing the results of decades of disinvestment in mental health and substance use treatment. The breakdown of the residential psychiatric system, coupled with the opioid crisis, has precipitated an epic need for on-demand treatment beds that is overwhelming our healthcare system. Meanwhile, local hospitals and jails have become the default housing system for a population that the state and federal government has abandoned. A contributing factor is that, as well, economic disparity has never been higher, and the chasm between the haves and the have-nots has never been wider. And then you add on top of that a global pandemic response, and local government has never been asked to do more for its communities with less resources. The broken systems are playing out across our nation, resulting in massive income insecurity, housing instability, and its partner, homelessness. When you overlay trying to solve or problem solve these issues when there's historic divisiveness in our country, it can seem overwhelming. I know this all sounds bleak, but there's a glimmer of hope on the horizon. Under the leadership of the county, we now have a regional housing council working to address this crisis. As well, the county allocated recovery funds to help service the current encampments that we're hosting in Olympia. More immediately, I want to thank you for the courage to work with Providence St. Peter's Hospital and the City of Olympia to find a path forward to address the public health and safety issues on Ensign Road. As you've heard earlier, Ensign Road is a key transport corridor to our regional hospital. The narrowness there can take minutes away from a patient's access to life-saving care. The Ensign Road campers are not in a tightly managed situation due to logistics and funding issues. The path forward will be a phased relocation effort in partnership with the City of Olympia. Phase 1 will be clearing the nearest campers from the emergency room entrance, potentially up to 20 vehicles, as you've heard, and relocating them to an empty lot on county property off of Carpenter Road. This site will be a sanctioned location that will be able to manage 24/7 and monitor in a way that will restrict illegal activities, lessen the impact on the neighbors, and provide a safe place for the campers. They will not need to go off-site for food and sanitation needs, all while connecting these residents to services and a pathway to housing. I know that what unsanctioned camps look like and the impact they have on surrounding neighbors. This will not be that situation. The second phase will be moving the Carpenter Road residents to a parcel off of Lily Road, where we can also fit the remaining campers and cars from Ensign. As well, the city is committed to enforcing a no parking ordinance on Ensign, so this area doesn't attract future campers. Is this a solution to homelessness? No. Is it a way to manage an unmanageable situation until much needed resources arrive from the state and federal government? Hopefully. The hard truth is that local governments can't manage a problem as complex as homelessness, but not trying isn't an option. Like Carolyn said, I'll ask folks to read last Sunday's editorial page for a broader scope of what city and county governments are facing in the battle to address this crisis. In the meantime, I ask the commissioners and county staff to stay the course on our partnership and be bold in your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have about 16 more people signed that are here. So next we have Chris Thomas. Chris, would you like to testify?
No comments.
No comments. Thank you very much. Crystal Williamson. Crystal? See her, but she is not unmuting. Next, we have Diana Hackett. Ms. Hackett? No. Eileen Lawrence. It does not appear to be with us any longer. Yeah. Well, I'm reading down the list of participants here on the screen. Jack Fields. Jack is no longer here. Jim Cooper.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Chair Menser and Commissioners Edwards and Mejia. I'm Jim Cooper from the Olympia City Council. I'm also the chair of our Regional Housing Council. And I wanted to just come here and talk to you about the MOU between the City of Olympia and the county for safe parking. And really just to emphasize that everyone is struggling. Our entire community is struggling. Whether you're a family struggling on low wages, whether you're a small business owner, a restaurant owner, a theater owner, or a mother living with their baby under the stars with no shelter at night. And it's an unfortunate situation. In fact, it's an impossible situation. And I want to thank you for leading and governing in the worst of times. In fact, I would venture to guess, and all facts and experts are telling us, that this problem will only continue to get worse. And so this is a great way to show your leadership as we build the structures and relationships to continue to do our best in an impossible situation, as Mayor Selby alluded to. I can't remember very many times in my time on the council where the largest non-state employers have come together to tackle a public safety issue. The county, the City of Olympia, Providence Hospital, the medical providers in the area coming together to work towards public safety. Public safety for our EMS patients. So right in the front door of the hospital is manifesting this emergency. And we all know, in fact, the majority of our voters know, 2/3 of our voters told us in August that they want EMS response to be quick and well-resourced so that people won't die. And we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that 1 minute can make a difference in someone's life. Safety for the neighbors and the businesses and the families and the communities There's no neighborhood in Thurston County that's not touched by this crisis. There's no small business that's not touched by this crisis. There's no neighborhood without homeless encampments near it, and there's no neighborhood without children. There are no good neighbors for our least fortunate neighbors in our community, and that makes me sad. It's a failure of our society, and we have to do our best while we wait for larger interventions. It's safety for the elderly and the babies who live in this camp. And I'm proud of this MOU and us coming together for this stopgap measure that's going to hurt a little bit while we do some moving and we readjust. But I can tell you that this is what leadership looks like, and this is how it's supposed to look. When Olympia has learned some lessons, when we roll up our sleeves and we're partner oriented and we work with the neighbors, many, many, many of the concerns that we hear today do not manifest. The neighborhood takes care of itself and takes care of the people in it. We also know, as I stated, that there aren't good neighbors. No matter where you have this conversation, people are going to fight. Every single jurisdiction in the Regional Housing Council has been evaluating 250 properties. We can't find one where anyone will accept our low-income neighbors. So I just want to reemphasize that we appreciate your partnership. We appreciate the partnership with Providence St. Peter Hospital. We will enforce the parking. We will continue to work towards a bigger property where we can reduce hardship for everyone involved. And I look forward to those outcomes as we work together. And then lastly, I just want to reemphasize for the County Commission, thank you for serving. I know this is really hard. I know you hear a lot of things that aren't true and aren't fact on a daily basis, and you have to wade through it and keep all of us safe. And I think you're doing the best job you possibly can, and probably one of the best jobs in the region, if not the nation, with one of the most difficult times governing and elected officials have ever seen. So thank you for your service.
All right, thank you. The next name I have on the list is Judy Barton. Judy, would you like to testify? Are you still?
Yes, I'd like to give public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I live in Olympia's west side. I want to thank the board for letting me comment today and for giving participants a generous 4 minutes to speak. It is supportive of public participation. I support the Memorandum of Understanding with the City of Olympia to address the impacts of unsheltered and homeless individuals living along Ensign Road. I want to share a recent experience. A couple of weeks ago, I was going to my dentist's office off Ensign Road. On Ensign, about a block from St. Pete's, I was stopped by a man who appeared to be from the encampment trying to start his car. He was running alongside of his vehicle and hopping in and out, trying to start the car. He was doing this repeatedly, totally blocking the road. I finally had to pass him very carefully. My one thought at the time was, what if I had been an ambulance and needed to get to the ER? Now I see they're rerouting to Lily Road. The county and the city of Olympia, with the support of Providence Hospital, have a plan to move just 15 to 20 of the RVs with owners at the highest health risk to a temporary space off Carpenter Road. Providence is donating $100,000 to this effort. The county and city will coordinate funding through the support of the Regional Housing Council to share expenses for the management of the facility, including 24-hour staffing, social service support, hygiene, utilities, trash removal, as well as community and neighborhood relations. The site is temporary for 6 to 7 months, while a permanent larger site for 50 vehicles off Franz Anderson Road is bought and prepared. The city of Olympia has been responsible for providing houseless services and facilities for Olympia and also the surrounding region. I'm glad the county is partnering with the city to provide some of the resources needed for the people in our county that lack a home. Thank you very much for taking my comments.
Thank you very much. The next name I have on the list is Karen Cunningham. Ms. Cunningham, would you like to testify? Next, Katrina Weinfeld Simmons.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. Good afternoon, commissioners, staff, and members of the public. My name is Katrina Weinfeld Simmons. I live in Southeast Olympia. I'd like to speak in favor of the memorandum of agreement. There are two reasons I speak in favor of this. The first reason is safety, and the second reason is collaboration. With regard to safety, I think the unsheltered and homeless people might constitute a public health risk to themselves and to the community where they live. In the camps along Ensign Road, we risk the safety of the people who live there, of the surrounding businesses, and the public who need to use Ensign Road. The camps may have a bad effect on public safety because buses, citizens, and emergency transit vehicles can't use Ensign Road safely. People who ride bicycles or who just want to walk can't feel comfortable using the bike lanes or the sidewalks on Ensign Road. And the residents may have a bad effect on the streams and the wild places along Ensign Road, further endangering the environment. For these reasons, I think the MOU is a really good idea to provide another place for people to live. My second reason is with regard to collaboration. I think that neither the city nor the county have resources individually to address the problem of the homeless issue. There aren't safe places for homeless and unsheltered people to live in groups. And by joining resources, the city and the county and the Regional Housing Council make best use of jurisdictions' resources to help solve the problem. I think this collaboration may also provide an example for future collaborations among jurisdictions as we need to solve regional problems, not just individual city problems. Thank you very much for hearing my testimony, and thank you very much for serving in the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Next, I have Kyle Howell.
Hi, my name is Kyle Howell. I live in unincorporated Thurston. We've heard a lot of, in some cases, kind of emotional views. And I'm going to try to keep mine more rational. First of all, hospital, I feel for him. I do. I have a close friend who lives right off Lilly. I know what that's like. I have frequented businesses in that area, not just on Ensign, but over a little further and over closer to Pacific, between Pacific and Martin. And I know what they're going through. I frequent a lot of the businesses around the Carpenter and Martin area. I'm very familiar with the little fenced enclosure where you used to keep the gravel, but you're wanting to put stuff in. And I had a question. We've got, and of course this is rhetorical, but we're moving something like 50 people out of this one area. Olympia had thrown their doors open publicly to welcome people. Are the people still coming to live there? Another gentleman had pointed out something I've noticed previously, which is a lot of out-of-state tags and vehicles from completely other areas that are just lomming here. Their communities aren't even supporting them. I don't have faith that Thurston County can support them all. I don't think, I live in the county, but I'm right on the border of Lacey. I don't think Lacey can support them. our communities, Tenino, Yelm, Lacey, Tumwater, we had homeless issues prior to the explosion with Olympia. What's going to curb further growth of the problem while we try to deal with what we've already got? And also, you know, no offense to Mayor of Olympia and the Councilwoman from Lacey, but yeah, give me a minute. I bet I could come up with another idea, but I don't think that they would like it. But at the end of the day, I think that this is Olympia's problem, and I don't think that the county should be having to buy land for Olympia's folly, and I don't think that the county should be having to deal with this. And I don't want to sound callous, but I think this is a really horrible idea, moving them there, and I think that the situation will get all convoluted, and things that are said to be temporary just aren't going to be so. And I personally, I don't want to see that floodgate open and end up with the rest of the county in the same situation that Olympia has put themselves in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The next name on the list is Phillip Sherman.
Sat here for a long time today. It's very hard to remain reasonable and calm. I'm one of the neighbors here. I've lived in this neighborhood, Greenbrier neighborhood, if you know where that is. And I'll direct my comments primarily to Mr. Menser and Ms. Mejia. I was mildly gratified that we had some nice political tropes and Pollyannic comments in the middle of that by some politicians. But you need to listen to your constituents. I've lived here for 26 years on Husky Way. I'm about 900 feet from that encampment. In 26 years, I've watched a tremendous amount of deterioration with no recourse. Nothing has been done to make my life easier. I'm a senior. I'm vulnerable. Why haven't these vulnerabilities by these people been addressed up till this point? Where they are. I'll tell you why. I worked as a letter carrier in this town, Olympia and Lacey, for 26 years too. And I also know that a lot of people do not want to take personal responsibility for things anymore. Where is the personal responsibility by those individuals? Where are they being good citizens rather than a drag? I could say I pay taxes, $4,000 in property taxes every year and going up. My county services in form of sheriffs has been vastly decimated. It's horrible, the lack of support that the county gives them and a lack of resources. They handcuff law enforcement to deal with some of these things. I have had assaults here. I have had intrusions. I have had thefts. I have had feces. I have had needles. I've got half a dozen pot shops within half a mile of me. And now you want a homeless camp here. I already got homeless camps here. What do we need another one for? And what's the guarantee that those empty spots on Ensign aren't going to be filled by some new people? I try to be reasonable about this because this is a very serious issue, but it's a moral issue. And it involves these people. I haven't heard from them why they think this is good, why they should be allowed to be over here. Why? We don't have a choice. We're just trying to live our days and be good citizens. There are a lot of senior citizens on this street and children. And I've heard from some of the business owners, and I hear the trembling in their voices too. I feel for them. I don't know what all the answers are, but how about some cooperative responsibility by those individuals? They've been given so many hands up on things. And I know one thing, I talked to a business owner many years ago downtown, and she says to me, I stopped 100 of them and offered them jobs. You know how many people took her up on it? 0. What does that tell you? This is a moral issue. You have concerned citizens here, but we also are responsible people. And we're asking you to look out for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I have Anna Shett. Anna, did you want to provide comment?
Ms. Schlecht, you're muted still. We can't hear you. I know you did want to give testimony because you put a chat on there saying that. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, sorry. I'm calling from beautiful downtown Des Moines, Washington. So thank you, county commissioners and fellow citizens who are all tackling a very tough topic. My name is Anna Schlecht. I'm an Olympia resident. And I live 4 doors away from 4th Avenue's business district. And I am not isolated from homelessness. I'm also a senior citizen that often walks with a cane. I think the demographics sometimes can be helpful. I am not an elected official, and I am glad to pay taxes to support the least among us. Our taxes pay for senior services, something near and dear to my heart, social services, youth organizations, and homeless services. I have personal reasons and professional reasons why this is really important to me. Homelessness is definitely very hard, and I learned this very early. I had a homeless uncle who served in Korea. He served his country, and his family was not able to understand what he needed, and his country failed him. We didn't understand PTSD back in those days, and he was homeless most of his life. I learned a lot about how homeless is hard during my 38-year career with the city of Olympia. And during the entire time I was at the city, Olympia shouldered the full burden of homelessness for the entire county. That means 99% of the homeless shelters, 100% of the food, and currently 100% of all of what we're now calling homeless camps. During that time, I want to point out that I also worked on every single homeless census since 2006, and I coordinated about 8 of them. And I did a lot of deep dives, and I know a fair amount about who is homeless and why they're homeless in our local region. Yes, some folks do come from out of town and out of state. That is a fact. But the vast majority are local folks. They are Olympia residents. They're also Lacey residents, Tumwater residents, Bucota residents, Yelm residents. They are our fellow citizens, and a lot of them are struggling with any number of issues, poverty, rent increases, mental health. There are many reasons that people become homeless. I was very discouraged to hear people talk about this over and over being an Olympia problem. And I'm here to tell the sheriff's deputy that I hope that they can do an in-service very soon so they can educate themselves and understand more about homelessness. To hear some folks talk, I have to tell you, it's not like a homeless bomb dropped in the middle of Olympia and let people out, and it's only Olympia's problem. It's only Olympia that has stepped up to provide services and resources, and now, honestly, it's time for the rest of the county to step up. Homeless folks are here. They are your former students, if you were a teacher, your former neighbors, people you worked with. One of the people that I've seen in downtown Olympia was a contractor that I paid quite a bit of money to reside part of my house. And I don't know what his tumble from security involves, but he's on the streets of Olympia now. These are our neighbors. These are the people that we know. And it's time for the entire county to step up, as the county commission is asking folks to do, and do the fair share, take on shelter camps and RV parking. I want to close and say that as a lifelong public servant, I have been honored to serve the taxpayer. And I urge other public servants who have been speaking here today to step up to the plate. You have to take what public service throws at you. And right now, many of our citizens are homeless. Please learn more about what homelessness is and try to lose some of the stereotypes. I lied. One more last thing I want to say. In my 38 years at the City of Olympia, I sat through many public hearings, and I heard people say very similar things against public transit, bus stops, against low-income housing, against anything that served people who they decided was not like them. Well, my uncle sure looked sharp and clean and handsome in his Korean Navy uniform. He was just like us until he wasn't, and we failed him. I hope that we can all step up and serve our homeless neighbors. Let's find new ways. If you feel critical of what Olympia has done so far, help create the kind of managed homeless situations that will, meet the standards of what we want. Lacey can create the kind of homeless encampments that they believe are appropriate. Tumwater can, and honestly, Tenino, Bucota, and Yelm can also step up with rules, with enforcement, but it takes a county to respond to the kinds of social service problems that we have that have caused homelessness. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. All right. Next, Eric Sullivan. Of course. Thank you. So sorry. Walter Jorgensen.
Right here. Am I on?
Yes,
you got 4 minutes,
you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. My name is Walt Jorgensen, and I live in Tumwater. And geez, thank you, Anna. What an act to follow. But I've read over the memorandum of understanding, the MOU, with the City of Olympia that talks about how the county and city plan to start moving the homeless RVs from Ensign Road to Carpenter Road. My girlfriend even made me read the attachment. And so I'm not going to remind you what it says. You've read it. And I hope that anyone else who has an opinion about the proposed action has read it. I have to say I'm impressed. Many MOUs are just vacuous collection of the right words in no particular sequence, frankly. This one makes sense. It sounds like both jurisdictions know what they're talking about. And if they follow their plan, there's a good chance for real improvement. I'm particularly glad to see the county becoming more of a player. Homelessness is a problem created by, frankly, the socioeconomic structure of our whole nation. The further down government hierarchy we try to solve this problem, the less effective we will be. Hopefully, from your example, you being the county, the state will pick up the ball. I have to always ask myself, why did the old GA building in the county fairgrounds remain empty when we need shelter for the homeless? And I know it's good advice to stick to one topic when making public comments. So now, in violation of that advice, I'd like to ask that the Black Lake Special District be dissolved and a Lakes Management District be established by the county to protect and restore the ecosystem of Black Lake. Incredibly, the Black Lake Special District was improperly created as a flood control district on a lake that does not flood. And it has used its authority to manage weeds and algae through the use of toxic chemicals, primarily for the enjoyment of boating on the lake and without consideration for the long-term effects on fish, wildlife, the drinking water resources. It also lacks the expertise or authority to address the root causes of deteriorating water quality. And now I'm going to violate an even more cardinal rule. I'm going to return to my first topic. I own several properties in the county, and I would gladly offer one of them for your RV park, but none of them would work. They don't have enough land area, or they're completely forested, which is a good thing. There's one question that everyone opposed to your proposal should be asked, and that is, what's your solution? What should we do with homeless people? You can't send them to another planet. Where should they go? Do you dare suggest they shouldn't exist? By the way, thanks for the generous allotment of time, the 4 minutes to speak, and also, not that I'm all that easy to look at, but I appreciate you making it seem more like a real meeting by including the visual option. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. So we had a number of other people who did not continue. Sir, would you like to give testimony? Yes, please step up to the mic. State your name and the area that you live in the county.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I didn't get on the agenda sooner.
That's all right.
My name is David Wendell. I go by my middle name, Tom. And my concern is with respect to the MOU between the City of Olympia and the county. And my concern is more about procedure than it is about the merits of the agreement. And the procedure as it sits, as I understand it, is that there is some form of hearing or meeting the day after tomorrow, which, as I understand it, exists to address questions that citizens may have and to field their comments and get information about this. And it strikes me as a bit of a slap in the face for this this board, to decide that and basically say to these people, well, we've already decided it, so whatever questions or information you may provide us with simply doesn't matter. But come on ahead and tell us anyway. I think that's unfortunate. I think it's poor procedure, that the solution would be to table this. The other concern I have is that I think in earlier remarks today, I have understood it to be fairly well acknowledged that the city of Lacey is going to suffer some impact from the use of the Carpenter Road site. And they are not a party to the MOU in question. Now, I guess that they are shoehorned into that through the regional housing agreement. But under that housing agreement, there is a clause that says, as I understand it, they have to approve something that will have a fiscal impact. And so are you intending to simply shut the city of Lacey out of this without any say? I do understand that they sent a letter in the early part of October expressing some concerns and suggestions, I will say, as to how things ought to be dealt with. I don't know if there's been any response to that. And I know we heard from someone in their private capacity who is with the city, but it is unfortunate that the city of Lacey seems to be kind of left out of this, even though they're impacted. Finally, just to go back to my first point about the bit of a slap in the face, is the hearing or meeting or whatever it is that's Thursday was scheduled to be earlier in advance of this meeting today, which would have then provided this body with the product of that meeting. Couple that with the fact that in order to find out that the Carpenter Road issue was on today's agenda, one had to look down 128 pages into the advanced copy of the agenda that I saw before any reference to Carpenter Road was made. I think you've thereby misled a lot of people to think that they could come in Thursday and have meaningful hearing of what they had to say. So my suggestion to you is to table this, let the hearing go forward Thursday with some meaning, and I'd pick this up again at another time. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. So that is everyone in the room, unless I've missed someone. If there is anyone else on the Zoom who has not had an opportunity and would like to testify, please unmute yourself now. If we have anyone else. So I think that's everyone, Commissioner.
Okay,